कहाँ जाना? Good evening. Yeah. टीचर आए ना आए ये अपनी दुनिया में हो गए तो डिस्कशन चलने दो ये आएगी पढ़ाएगी जाएगी क्या करिए बता कम लेते हैं फ्रेंड यो वो तो कम और a change क्योंकि वो क्या स्पेशल जगह है where do you want to sit now without textbook no actually this is job and where is your book bag come here where there in that corner come here Susan Barkha okay if you remember last time we had started with president and yeah 1 minute अगर चुप बैठना है तो ही लास्ट में बैठना है नहीं तो दोनों यहाँ पे एक बेंच खाली है यहाँ पे आ जाओ president we finished the part of the president do you remember who's the head of the state president and how is he elected by an electoral college what does that electoral college consist of both houses of parliament and elected elected members of both the houses of parliament and elected state legislative and two union territories Delhi and Pondicherry yes Pondicherry or Pondicherry whatever spelling is easy you can write what is the term of his office 5 years how can he be removed impeachment and before that he can resign what will be the reason for impeachment last year what will be the reason for impeachment violation of constitution only and only violation of constitution if he violates the constitution then the impeachment process can be started against him he has different powers executive powers he makes all the important appointments he has he nominates the members to Rajya Sabha we also okay. We also talked about emergency powers national emergency did we talk about national emergency state constitution did we talk about national emergency yes, where can we have national emergency terrorist attack when the president is satisfied when the president is satisfied when president is satisfied Yes, during
war or
yes. Whenever there is external aggression, whenever there is war, and the president thinks that the security is threatened, security of the country, nation is threatened, that's when the national emergency is issued. Okay, what happens during national
when the
emergency?
president is satisfied that a grave emergency.
Very good. Okay, that is the grave emergency. And which is a grave emergency? Only when there is an external attack. Okay. So, or there is a war. So that is grave emergency. That's when national emergency is. What happens during national emergency? Basically, the president takes over. Every administration is carried out in the name of the president. The president takes over. Okay. There is a second thing, you don't have duration and all those effects and all those details. What is breakdown of constitutional machinery? Most probably we might have it in Maharashtra. What is breakdown of constitutional machinery? When? Yes.
Unable to prove the majority.
Yes. Or when the state government is not able to carry out the functions according to the constitution. Okay, so that means when the state government does not have majority, or you just remember this line, governance of a state cannot be carried out according to the provisions of the constitution. Then emergency is declared in that state. What happens then? That means the legislative councils have no power. That is also called emergency. That is constitutional state emergency. So presidential rule, that is also known as presidential rule. So presidential rule is implemented means what? Like if say in Maharashtra, if they are not able to, both the parties fail to prove the majority, then nobody can form the government. Then there might be a case that there will be a presidential rule. Because if you don't have majority, you cannot form the government. If you try to form the government, then it is against the constitutional provisions. So there are chances of presidential rule. What happens then? Both the houses, the legislative assembly will be discredited. There will be no legislative assembly. Everything will be, the function or the administration will be carried out by the president. In the name of president, the central government, the central parliament will, the national parliament in Delhi, they will, Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha, they will carry out the administration. Kuch samjha? That is known as breakdown of constitutional machinery. It is also known as president's rule. What is president's rule? Okay. What is president's rule? President's rule and breakdown of constitutional machinery is same. What happens during that time? Where does this happen? In okay. When the government cannot prove, or the governance of the state, governance of the state cannot be governance. You need to remember this term. Governance of the state cannot be carried out according to constitutional provisions. Governance of the state not carried out according to the provisions of the constitution. Then the president may declare emergency, that is known as president's rule in a state. Remember this definition, this is important. That time the president assumes all the power and functions of the government of that state. Again, you don't have the duration and other details. You don't have the effects. What is financial emergency? The third part is financial. There are three types of emergencies: national, breakdown of constitutional emergency, breakdown of the constitutional machinery, and the third one is financial emergency. What is financial emergency?
If the state is unable
If
to
the
pay their debts and
pay their debts. Okay, more than state, it is national level. Okay, if the country is going through, exactly, if the country is going through very difficult financial phase, if there is no financial stability, then the financial emergency is declared. As he said, Sri Lanka. Any idea what has happened? What is happening in Sri Lanka? Sri Lanka is going through a very difficult phase. They don't have any reserve of foreign currency.
they don't Sri Lanka and Pakistan don't have right to publish their textbooks.
Yes, publish the textbook. Government doesn't have money to publish the textbook. Let's talk first about Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka has exhausted their entire foreign reserve. You need dollars to buy petrol, crude oil, and all that. The condition was is so bad that they don't have petrol. They don't have petrol. See, there is no petrol, no cars. If no cars run, no transportation, no supply of food, goods, no supply of anything. So the country was going, so they declared financial emergency. They undertook many different projects, and these projects were carried out. They gave a lot of contracts to China. The projects were carried out. They used, and unfortunately, none of those projects worked. China made huge investment. Like, they paid a huge amount of money for China to start those different projects. But they, a new airport and what all they started thinking that tourists will come, but the COVID happened. There were somehow some 4 or 5 major projects that the president in their country started. Only the president's family profited from it, and none of the country profited from it. The country is going through extremely bad phase. And then recently, even I happened to read that even in Pakistan, the reserves are so low that they don't have money to publish the books. I forgot what it said. It said drink lassi instead of tea. Yeah, more than publishing the books, they don't have money to export. Import money to import tea. So now in the schools, they are teaching children and they are enforcing that you drink lassi, because lassi and chas, so that, and don't drink tea because they don't have money to import tea from other countries. So there are many countries. There is Portugal. Portugal went through. Greece. See, if you Greece is the best place to visit because it's very cheap. The reason being, they were bankrupt, absolutely bankrupt. Portugal, on the brink of bankruptcy. They've been supported by these European unions constantly. So, see the country, Portugal, which once upon a time, did you sign on this? The country Portugal, which once upon a time ruled parts of India, that is Goa, and sorry, only Goa in India, but Pondicherry. That was French. That was French. Goa Div Daman, only Goa Div Daman in India. But they also had many colonies. They had many colonies in South America.
And Brazil.
Yeah, Brazil was a major colony. So is today bankrupt because they were making their money from the colonies. So when the financial stability or the credit of the nation is threatened, when there is no financial stability, the president declares financial emergency. You only need to know what these three emergencies are. The details are not there. You don't need to know what are the effects of financial emergency and all that. Then we come to vice president. Now, what is the vice president qualification for being a vice president? Same as president. So, okay. Okay. So, same as the president, citizen of India, 35 years of age, qualified for the election to be the member of Council of States, that is Lok Sabha. How are the elections conducted? It also has electoral college, but what does this electoral college consist of? Only the two houses of parliament. Elected members of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha together elect the vice president. Who, again, the nomination papers have to be supported by 20 electors, MPs, and seconded by other 20. So total 40 members have to support the nomination. How many members need to support the presidential nomination? 50. 50 needs to, this is vice president. President 50 and 50. That is total 100. And here it is 20 and 20. So total 40. Who gives the oath to vice president? The president. The president gives oath to vice president. What is the term of vice president's office? 5 years. Can he resign? Yes. Who will he submit his resignation? To the president. He can resign, he can submit his resignation to the president, and then president can submit it to the speaker of Lok Sabha. It so happens that if there is the interesting thing is Rajya Sabha never gets dissolved. So he will remain in office till the new vice president is elected. So even if he completes 5-year term, he will remain in office till the new vice president is elected. So he continues to be in office till the new vice president is elected. It's not that, okay, his term is over, he has to go. He remains in office till the new vice president is elected. What are the functions of the vice president? You have done this. What is the main function of the vice president? That's it. He's the ex officio chairman of Rajya Sabha. First and foremost, he issues directions, he carries out, he attends all the meetings. The second is, if the president resigns or if the president's seat is vacant, then he carries out the functions of the president. Very rarely that happens, but if the president is not in office, if the president is not in the country, then he carries out the functions. So these are two important functions of the vice president. Ex officio chairman of Rajya Sabha. He takes over the position of a president if there is a death of the president, if he resigns or if he is removed from his office, or if he's absent for any reason, even then the vice president takes the charge of the office. So two important functions of the vice president. Page question answers. That's all you have in this lesson. It's a short lesson and an easy one. I think we had marked the answers to question number 7. Any idea? Question number 8. You don't have your textbook? What in school? You have a similar one? Similar one. Okay. How is the vice president elected? Yeah. 1 minute. Okay. Do you know the answer? Last. How is the vice president elected? Tell me the question. Answer to question number 8. Tell me the answer to question number 9. Tell the answer to the don't have a text. Tell me the answer to question number 10. Yes, these are one-line answers, one-word answers. You got the 8.
8.
How is the vice president elected? I'll tell you the page number 189. On page 189, exactly. On page 189, the vice president, there it is written, the vice president is elected by the members of both houses of parliament in accordance with the proportional representation by means of single transfer.
When there is exam, can you conduct revision in class?
See, you need to ask
The revision normal.
Ramina. That's why. Sorry? Mine is old edition, maybe. Old edition. Therefore, is orange in color. Yours is not. That's it. Check with Varka, ma'am. Okay. I don't mind doing it. How many lessons do you have? 4.
Was 3 and
Union Parliament was 3 and
So that will be next Wednesday. Is that next Wednesday? 11 July. Check with Varka, ma'am. Sorry?
Sunday का टेस्ट कर देते हैं Sunday का टेस्ट कर देते हैं
ना आपको क्या सेकंड पेज ऑफ इंडिपेंडेंस नहीं था क्वेश्चन तो भी डाला
पढ़ना चाहिए
Okay. Hello. You got the answer?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yes, I will. After this, I want to. What is the normal term of the office? 5 years. Hey, boys. I have. On what grounds can the President of India be removed? The 10th one. How long can the Vice President continue to hold office even after the expiry of the term? Until his successor enters upon his office. That is, until the new Vice President is elected. See, the answer is on page 187. Term of the office, 4th point. Okay, in your textbook 188. Term of the office, 4th point. Till his successor is elected. It will take hardly few months. Well, 2-3 months extra. Not more, not 2 years, 3 years. They will not. Everybody wants to be a vice president or president. Question number 11. How can the vice president be removed from his office?
by the process of impeachment.
By the process of impeachment. It's the same. Next, state the power of Vice President as ex officio chairman of the Rajya Sabha. It's page 188, the whole para actually. Ex officio chairman of Rajya Sabha regulates debates. No, the question is state the powers of Vice President as the ex officio chairman of the Rajya Sabha. So then it will be regulates debates and proceedings of the House, decides the order of the speeches, decides the admissibility of the resolution or a question. So write any 3 points there. 3 points from that paragraph. Now, we have done first phase, we have done first phase, we have done second phase. Only that Muslim League is remaining. Even in Muslim League, you have very, very specific questions. You don't have the entire lesson. You have the formation of Muslim League. Now in this, I think we have done question number 1 and 2. Have we done question number 1 and 2 of this lesson? Question number 2, structured questions. We have done 3.
Yes. यार ना नॉर्मल रेट का इतना ज्यादा लिखा था
उसका पूछा है वाला पिक्चर्स कर दिया क्वेश्चन ही ये
Now, see 1 minute. President enjoys vast powers. In this context, briefly explain any 3 executive powers, legislative powers, judicial powers. For that, come to page number 182 or 88. See here, this about the questions. They have given it very well in points. Okay, so write the answers from there. Executive, legislative. यहाँ से लिखना है, पूरा वो अंदर मत जाना. यहाँ पे they have given it very neatly in points, just above the questions. Is it page number 189 in your book? 188. Will answers. Now, according to Dr. Ambedkar, the president represents the nation but does not rule the nation. In this context, answer the following questions. The president of India is referred to as nominal head. I have already given this answer.
Yes.
You have written it. Mention the circumstances when the president can declare a national emergency. Come to page number 185 in my book. Only the circumstances, paragraph. Only the circumstances, paragraph. Yeah, even in my book it is 185. National emergency, circumstances, only the circumstances. Should I go to the next? Now state the effect of emergency on the administration. Effects are not there. You don't have effects. Only the circumstances are there. Okay. Then we are going to question number 4.
I'm explaining to 6.
Sorry.
I'm explaining to discretionary powers of the president.
Okay. Sorry. explain two discretionary powers of the press. 188 is too small. 184. Discretionary first point, just from appointment of the Prime Minister in a situation where no single party commands the clear support of the majority of the Lok Sabha member and there is a hung parliament. Any idea what is hung parliament? No, hung parliament means, see, actually in Maharashtra today, we can have all these situations. See, we have to have, suppose, no, hung parliament means, let's say we have the parliament on, there is BJP, we have the Prime Minister, but after now the new elections are conducted, it's assume, this is assume. We conduct new elections and BJP does not get clear majority and even opposition does not get clear majority. It can happen. So there's no clear majority. You need to have a clear majority. You need to have a certain votes more than the opposition party. So when there is no clear majority to both the parties, then nobody is in the position to form the government. That time it is called hung parliament. That means no single party has majority to form the government. Re-elections or the time is given or the president then calls one party which has slightly more votes or whatever the constitutional provisions are. Then the alliances are made and many things. So that's when the president takes the decision whom to call, which party to call. No. Hung parliament, if there is say prime minister, then he calls the prime minister and asks him to form the government. And then he has to prove, after a month, he has to prove his majority. So, but then, we cannot go on without a parliament, without a government and without prime minister, right? So therefore, whoever has slightly more votes, the president calls that leader, asks him to become the prime minister, and then that prime minister, that political party has to prove their majority, gives them 1 month's time. So that call is taken by the president. So first point, till hung parliament. Second point, the whole thing. Again, appointment of a prime minister in case of sudden death of the incumbent, where the ruling legislature party is unable to meet immediately to elect a leader. Like when when Indira Gandhi was assassinated, we were suddenly out of no prime minister, and therefore then the president decided to choose another leader. That was Rajiv Gandhi, but then Rajiv Gandhi. So this must have been the first, not the first, but in India definitely first. The sitting prime minister is assassinated by her own bodyguards. Oh, it's a big story.
We have 20 minutes.
We have time. Yeah, you tell the story.
मूवी बताओ महाराष्ट्र में क्या चल रहा है
भाई कुछ नहीं ये
अलगेस्टर बता दे अलगेस्टर बता दे
कुछ पता नहीं होगा अच्छा मैं बोलूं
Indira Gandhi, see, whatever said, Indira Gandhi was, she was called the only man in her, in the government, in her government.
So
So I hope you know that is Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, his daughter Indira Gandhi. She became the prime minister. That is the time. Hey, do you want to listen? Otherwise, I'll mark the answers and move on. This is the time when the Punjab issue started. That is Punjab. In Punjab, Sikhs wanted a separate state for themselves. Forget state, they wanted a separate Khalistan for themselves. Khalistan was the nation. They said, we don't want to, we are a different identity. The way Pakistan was separated, we want a separate Khalistan for ourselves. And a separate, they wanted break the Pakistan part of Punjab and give it to us as a separate nation. That was the demand. These terrorists of Khalistani terrorists, and they had a complete support of Pakistan. Pakistan was upset because we had helped the formation of Bangladesh. Bangladesh and Pakistan were one country nation earlier. When Bangladesh wanted to separate, they came to us for help. They went to Russia also for help. See, there is a lot of politics here. Had Russia interfered, then Russia would have made a base next to India, and India did not want that. So India helped Bangladesh separate from Pakistan. Pakistan was upset. They were ready to create any chaos in India. They supported the Khalistan's demand. They were supplying arms, ammunition, and the terrorism was spreading like anything. These terrorists, what they did is they stationed themselves in Golden Temple. So this the main head, their head was also the religious head. He stationed Bhindranwale. Bhindranwale. It is Bhindranwale. It is spelling is Bhindranwale. So that was the name. So he stationed himself. They were actually, their base was Golden Temple. See, they were smart. They thought in India nobody will try to interfere in the temple or religious places. You know, religious place, nobody dares. The terrorist activities were increasing. They had literally made a barricade in the temple. The Golden Temple is a huge area. There they, put the goni of cement, sand sacks. They had placed the sand sacks and made it like a barricade from inside, so that from outside nobody should be able to see anything. So they had created kind of a wall of sand, sandbags, you can say. Exactly, so that nobody can see anything from outside, and their activities were full-fledged going on from the temple. She said, nothing doing. We have to somehow cut them down. We have to stop these activities. We have to take a strong action. And she asked the army. She did not even ask the police force. She said, let's not take help of Punjab police force. They are already harassed by the terrorists. She called in the army. There's a very nice interview from the army chief who was in charge of, he himself was a Sikh. He says that we never ask our soldiers whether you want to be part of any mission. When the commander gives the order, the soldiers have to go. He said first time, and that must have been, so far it has never happened. He asked his people, see, we are going to enter temple and we don't know what is going to happen. So the mission is inside the Golden Temple. It's a Gurdwara. Are you ready to come? Because it was a Sikh battalion. And he says he was surprised that not a single soldier backed out. They said everybody agreed to be part of it. One soldier raised his hand and he was like, fine, okay, if you don't want to come, you are free. I will not take any action. We don't want to hurt anybody's religious sentiments. So we want only those who believe in our mission, please be part of it. He said, no, I don't want to back out. I know this place very, very well. Put me in the front, I can guide you. So then he was brought in first, and the mission took place. Now, army was told not to fire in the temple. When you go inside the temple, what you have to do is you have to make arrests. You are not going to fire because there are going to be people. They tried to evacuate, but evacuation was not possible. Had they started evacuating, then they wouldn't have caught the terrorists what do you say? They would have got to know that there is some action going to be. So they were entered in civil clothes, and then they started the mission. Here the terrorists, they took the shield of the people, and then they started firing at the army. When they started firing at the army, the army really had to control, because army cannot just start firing. They have to get the orders to fire. Till the time they don't get orders to fire, the soldiers cannot fire a single bullet, even in self-defense. So the government had given strict orders not to fire. They say for hours they somehow managed to protect themselves without firing. But then then finally the Prime Minister said, go ahead, do whatever you need to do for your own protection. And that's when they went ahead with guns, and the firing started from both the sides. Of course, they managed to bring down some of the terrorists, arrested some of the terrorists, purged the temple, made huge number of arrests, and the terrorists were brought out. Bhindranwale was arrested, he was imprisoned, many things happened. This was one such blue star. It is called Operation Blue Star. Operation Blue Star. So Operation Blue Star took place. Many Sikhs were upset. They did not like that army went inside the temple. Now, अभी army के लोग ऐसे चप्पल उतार के हाथ जोड़ के तो नहीं जाएंगे ना action लेने के. So so they did not like that the army entered and the firing was done and people were running in shoes and all that, and the action, and Indira Gandhi had given the orders to do that. After that, even our Operation Black Star took place. That was after 1 year, and that totally helped in eliminating terrorists from the temple. But here what happened, both the bodyguards were sick, and she was told that look, you change your bodyguards, and she said, no way, they've been with me for so long, and I trust them completely. And they were upset. They were actually upset because she gave the orders and people entered, army entered in the Golden Temple, and they think that lost the sanctity of the temple. And therefore they were upset. Probably they were the supporters of Khalistan, no idea. Or they were just upset because she gave orders to enter the temple. See, religion is such a, what do you say? There's a very interesting phrase by Karl Marx. He says religion works as opium on masses. That is, once it's a matter of religion, you stop thinking. So, so these two, they were the three ones. In the morning, she was coming out. After breakfast, she was leaving for her office, and they fired her from front. And she died there itself, outside her house. So that's how she was assassinated. And but nobody will ever forget her for her work, for the work that she has done. See, she had done many wrong things, like emergency. She imposed emergency in India, first time and last time. That was the emergency. But people have forgotten that because she has done some great work with Khalistan terrorists also. Sorry, Black Star, same way, same operation. Army went there, and remaining terrorists and all. See, the then Prime Minister. How many people were in that terrorists? How many terrorists were there? Common people, few. So army had to be very restricted. They had to take a very restricted action because they couldn't fire. Because people would have immediately jumped on conclusion, blame them. So they couldn't fire, so they had to take very restricted action. But yes, later on they did. Now, question number 4. There shall be a Vice President of India in this context. Manner of his election. Manner of his election is election paragraph. Electoral college consisting of the members of both houses of parliament elect the vice president. The election is held in accordance with the system of proportional representation by means of single transferable vote. Any three qualifications for election?
188 with zero.
Yes, actually. Qualifications, you know, citizen of India, 35 years age, qualified to be member of Council of States. Page 187. Got the answer? Page 187 पे answers है सारे. Two of his important powers. Again 180 in my, it is 187 only. Is it given in? Yes. Page 189. It's given very well. Powers and functions of vice president in points. The last point. कुछ समझा, कुछ मिला? Page 189. Got it? Page 189. Oh, this is yes. Powers and functions. Given in points, that is the answer of या बाद में बैठ के आंसर मार्क करो. सबसे बेस्ट तो इसका यहाँ बुक है, बुक है, लेकिन है कौन सा अंदाज बुक कहाँ है? घर पे जाके मार्क करो. Identify the building. Rashtrapati Bhavan. State the qualifications needed to become the president that we have done. Why is it said that President of India is only nominal head? I have already dictated that answer. Now, from the previous lesson, I had not explained the exclusive powers, right? क्या हो गया है? Exclusive powers हो गया है ना? Then, if we come to lesson number 5, Muslim League, there are very few points. Children, if you have a notebook, I will only give those points because marking करोगे?
Yes.
You need to know when it was established.
Can you tell what is coming, what is not?
What is coming from this lesson? From this lesson? Yes. See, from this lesson, okay, Muslim League, year of formation, when it was formed. See, it's a very interesting lesson actually. You come to know how systematically Britishers divided the society. I'll just tell you in short. See, 1857 happened. And 1857 was a big shock for the Britishers. They realized that it is very difficult to Soham, pay attention. Britishers realized that it's very difficult to curb the rebel of the Indians if both of you can go up and sit there and talk. they realized that it's very difficult to put down Indians or control Indians if they present themselves as a united front. If all the groups come together and fight with. And therefore they decided that somehow we should divide them. They had lived here, they had been in India for before 1857. From 1600 they had been in India, they had understood the society and they realized the best division now would be religion. They realized it will be best would be religion, because in the 1857 revolt, both Hindus, Muslims, they both rulers had joined hands and fought together. What did they start doing there? How to do this division? The first thing they started is they started rewriting history books. Now, many times you don't realize who reads history, why, what is that, why to study history. We start from there, but we don't realize that history books unconsciously help us to form our opinions. Very systematically, they divided the history books, and even today we follow the same thing as Hindu period, then the Muslim invaders, yes, Muslim invaders, and then the British Empire. So before that, all were Hindu rulers. All the period that we had is phased as Hindu rulers. Then the Muslim rulers, and Muslim rulers are always invaders. See, if you see, Akbar was born in India. Everybody after that, all the Mughal rulers were born in India. Most of them had Hindu mothers, but yet they are called as invaders. It is so systematically put by them, instilled in our head, that it's very difficult to erase now. Then, so the first thing they did is they started introducing history. They rewrote the history, started dividing history. And see, there was basic difference in two cultures. The Muslims were educationally, they were a little backward, while Hindus were, in the front of education. They were quick to take the education, English education or whatever. What they started doing, they started favoring one group and not favoring the other. So whom did they favor? The Muslims. The Britishers started favoring the minority, giving them more concessions. So that obviously the majority were upset. So very systematically, they created a situation, and they, in the textbook, if you read, the language matters. The Sultanate period all those rulers are always considered as they. They did this. The Hindu rulers did this. So for us, right from childhood, we have read that we Hindu rulers, they Muslim rulers. So this is a very unconscious way of creating a division as to we and they, and not the whole society together. So this is some earlier part of your lesson actually, policy of divide and rule, how they followed the policy of divide and rule, and how they started favoring Muslims. That upset the Hindu population. They kept telling the Muslims that the Hindu population will dominate you because they are taking education, they are getting most of the important places, important seats. Then there was Congress. All the members, most of the members in Congress were also Hindus. So they started narrating or instilling to Muslims that this is what they are doing. They are going to dominate you and you will have no rights. So that is when there were some leaders among the Muslim community. They realized that even we need to help our people get education. Otherwise, they will remain backward. And they thought that the way Congress is and they constantly, Britishers said Congress group is a Hindu group. So they realized that if that is a Hindu group, even we must have one party, All India Party for ourselves. Parliamentary reforms came later, which said that you'll have separate electorates. It's like if it is a Koparkherna, if it's Koparkherna, so say Koparkherna sector 6, 7, 8 has one constituency. I'm just giving you an example. All the members will get elected from here. Lower caste, higher caste, Muslim, Christian, whoever want to contest. They said no. In sector 6, 7, if it is 6, 7 and 8, then in 6 and 7, one Hindu person will contest the election. 8 will keep exclusively for a Muslim person. So one person must get elected from sector 8. Understood? That they divided the constituencies and made separate constituencies for Muslim. People started getting upset. What is this? Why on the basis? They understood that this is division, but they couldn't do much. And they gave a lot of representation in the states like Punjab. In state of Punjab, there was 50% reservation for them. Separate constituencies for them. So they too decided that we should also have a separate political party for ourselves, so that we can get our demands fulfilled. And therefore, when did they establish this? You need to know when it was established. It was established on 1906, December 30th, 1906. Page 62, mark that answer. Establishment, All India Muslim League, page 62. See, you have Nawab Salimuddin photo. Nawab Salimullah. Page 62.
December 30, 1906.
Yes, 1906. December 30, All India Muslim League was set up on December 30, 1906 under the presidency of Nawab Salimullah. You need to know under whose presidency also. Then Aga Khan was elected as the permanent president of Muslim League. First headquarters were in Aligarh, and then it was shifted to Lucknow. Okay.
And this happened after partition of Bengal.
1900.
Ma'am, partition of Bengal October 16.
Yes.
I mean, it was in 1907.
1905. Very good.
Just 2 minutes left.
Exactly. You only came for geography lecture.
Oh my God,
प्रैक्टिस करता है भाई
I've been hearing he's the head boy of the school for past what, 2 weeks?
2 years.
1 week. Yes, last week also.
This is the last.
Okay. This is the last week for the practice.
नहीं कल स्टाफ मिलेगा नहीं मिलेगा मिलेगा कल को हम पाएंगे नहीं देगी
Then you have establishment, then you have the president, then you have aims and objectives of the Muslim League. That is the next paragraph. Sorry? Impact is not there. After that, you have Lucknow Pact. Not impact, you have Lucknow Pact.
wow
Aims and objectives. Those 3 aims. Yes, there are only 3 aims. Promote among the Muslims. See, now Muslim League realized that a vast population among them were uneducated, and therefore they realized that if they support Britishers, then Britishers will give them more concessions to develop, and those concessions will help them develop. And therefore, the main aim of Muslim League was to promote support for British government among the Muslim people. Whatever is remaining, we'll do later. But there are very few points, very few. So this lesson is very short. Nilesh, very bad.
Very bad. And such bola.
Very bad.
Very bad. उसका कितना ही नहीं है उठाएगा मतलब शुरू जाके बैठना है क्या अबे नहीं दूंगा बे गोल्ड ये सारा उसमें वीडियो वाला बोले है क्या अरे बहुत